Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday. My name is Melissa Kent. I'm an educational consultant specialized in tutoring and advocating school age youth. Please give a warm welcome back to Dr. Suki Stone. She's been a former guest on my show, and I'm thrilled to have her back today. Dr. Suki Stone has spent over 30 years in the special education field. She is the founder of Write, Read, Lead, which is a program designed to teach writing, reading, and comprehension skills. Today, we will be discussing the importance of vocabulary. Dr. Suki Stone, thank you so much for being here today.
It's a joy. I'm so excited. I do want to correct you though. I've been in the business 40 years now. I don't know that's good or bad, but it gives me a different perspective because I can go back and see the changes that education has had. And I want to compliment you for your advocacy because when I was doing my thing way back and working with the special ed children, I was just as a teacher trying to advocate for my children. And it wasn't as viable as actually someone like yourself advocating with a need for parents to be the people that make choices for their special ed children. So I'm very, very happy that there is an actual job, an actual position for advocates. And I honor you for that because
well, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's an honor to serve the youth. And also, I want to thank you for sharing your ebook with me. In fact, I actually want to talk to you about that today. You have 5 tips for vocabulary building for student success. Can you dive into those 5 tips, please?
I can. It's very, very interesting. One of the things that I was asked to do by my mentor was to create a guidebook. And I thought, what's the most important thing for a child? And you'll be able to, I'm hoping that all the moms in the Moms Club and all the moms and teachers who are moms will be able to relate. But the very first teacher a child has is their mom and dad. But it's kind of like before they ever get to school, they learn things as a natural process. So I actually decided for my guidebook, and just as a matter of information, people can get my guidebook by emailing me at drstone@writereadlead.org. And I'm happy to just send them the guidebook. But it's on vocabulary development. And one of the first tips is that vocabulary is taught and learned by parents and teachers. So you're not just the teacher as a parent, but you're also the learner.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, this is really cute. It's a real story. It's not a joke story. It's a real story. But this is a way that parents learn, and also teachers need to know that vocabulary is a natural process. It is not taught. And here's the story. This is an adorable story. There's a married couple, and they have a 3-year-old. And the 3-year-old greets the dad when the dad comes home from work every day. And one day the dad's coming home from work, and mom greets the dad and says, "How was your day, honey?" And he says, well, I was a little frustrated because I didn't anticipate that my client wouldn't understand what I was trying to give them. And the little 3-year-old is listening to that. And the next day, in the plan for the parent, they're going to go to the grocery store. They're going to go shopping. And she's teaching her 3-year-old how to choose his clothes and how to dress. So she says, you pick out your outfit, and then I'll wait till you're dressed, and then we'll go shopping. And he says, okay. So about, I don't know, a couple minutes after she thinks that he's dressed, she goes in and she says, Jose, how come you're not dressed? And he's tying his shoe. He's completely dressed, but he's tying his shoe. And he says, Mama, he says, I'm frustrated. I didn't anticipate I would have trouble tying my shoe. And he used the same words that his dad had used the day before. But he understood the comprehension of what it was like to be frustrated. And he understood the word anticipation. And even as a 3-year-old, he could say the word anticipation. And that's how vocabulary is developed. It's developed in the home. It's developed on what children hear and how they hear their parents, their siblings, their neighbors, friends of their parents, just in a total. So that's why one of my tips about, and it's at the end, but one of my tips is that vocabulary is not a learned skill. It's a natural skill that's developed. And one of the things that, and I'll get into the other 4 tips, but one of the things that I emphasize is I tell you, you're going to really love this part of me. Now, maybe it's because I got older that I do this, but, and it might be a little embarrassing for parents, but I like to teach no matter where I go. So I tell parents to have a stack of 3x5 note cards. And anytime they hear their child say something that it has a long word in it, like the word anticipation, they write it down and they teach it as a whole. They don't teach the letter. You teach letters, but my children, and I'm very, and it's not my personal children, I don't have any, but the children that I teach are extremely important to me, and they have knowledge that parents don't understand that they learn, and they learn just by listening. But I have this big, I don't know what it's called. It's just my own anticipation that they know the words that they use. So it's not looking at, and I also do know that my children who have learning disabilities or very severe dyslexia do not have auditory discrimination. And I can explain that later. But phonics is not an aspect of my reading program because they don't distinguish between short sounds, long sounds. They don't distinguish between the sounds. And it's not because they can't hear it. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with their perception for auditory learning. So everything is holistic. So when you write the word anticipation, you just have them read it. You say anticipation. And then you can ask them, well, what are you anticipating today? And that they might say that I don't have to go to school. But, or they might say, tell me, Melissa, what's your children's favorite food that you serve them for dinner?
Pizza.
Okay. So, and you make it yourself?
No.
Oh, okay. No. Something you make yourself.
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Spaghetti and meatballs. So they might say to you, you ask, well, what do you anticipate? And they might say, Mama, that we can have spaghetti and meatballs today for dinner. So they're using the word because they understand and they know the meaning. And that's why I do it holistically. I do want to explain that each of my tips come from a holistic perspective. So I don't have the children learn sounds. I have the children learn letters, and I have the children learn holistically. And my reading program, although this today is not about that, it's about a portion of the vocabulary. Everything is holistic. They learn holistically. So I have 5 researchers that I studied. A couple of them I actually met, that have put my program together so that all of the things that I'm talking about today is not something that I created. It's something that I learned over my 40 years of teaching. And it's a concept that I studied each of these researchers so that each of my tips is a, what do I want to call it? Not a result, but like an interwoven concept of the reading process. And I will say this, we know that teachers, parents are the first teachers. Children learn that they come to school with knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so this knowledge they bring with them is something that the teachers need to use. And our teachers are kind of like taught. I was taught. Children come to school with no knowledge. Can you imagine? Back now, I'm aging myself. But back in the 60s, like when I graduated in 69, I went to a teacher's college. And they said, children come to school with no knowledge. I wasn't teaching for 2 months, and I knew that they came in with knowledge. And that's your fault. No, that's your responsibility. But you don't have to teach. Just being with your child is a teaching thing. So my second tip is vocabulary is taught and learned by both teachers and students. Mm-hmm. So you as a mother are a teacher, but you're also a learner. And we put ourselves in positions as parents to say, we're in charge. Mm-hmm. So you have let's say, not a habit of asking children what they want. And it's not necessarily, what do you want for dinner? But what would you like to do? What's your favorite thing? And I have to tell you, I have a story for you when I talk about favorite. I love this story. I ask the children what their passions are and what their favorite things are. And I tell the mothers when they sit with me that they have to be a fly on the wall. They can't talk. I'm interested in what their children have to tell me. Okay. This is so cute. So my program is about stories that they write. And I ask them their passion. And I asked this little boy what his passion was. And he said sports. And so I said, what's your favorite sport? And the mother says, basketball. And I said, and right after she says it, he says, no, I don't like basketball. So I said, okay, what do you like? And he said, I really like soccer. So the mom, after the story, said, oh my gosh, I had no idea that he liked soccer. And maybe I should ask him after class if he wants to join, if he wants to like be in an after school soccer group or whatever. She had no idea. So we learn as parents as well as teachers, and we have to make the vocabulary portion of their learning before they get to school something that we don't teach, but we learn by having them use the vocabulary that they hear. And I'm just emphasizing that because I think as a teacher, and I want to ask you that, I think as a teacher, there are places that you are a learner. Now, I really want you to think of as a mom, not a teacher, okay?
Okay.
But tell me, think about the children and maybe yesterday when you picked them up. So have it be like current, although you can talk about it when they were 2 and 3 and 4. But what have you learned from your children that have made you understand them better?
I've learned to observe them. I'm very into student-led learning. So when they're little, I observed which toys they gravitate towards or what books they naturally gravitated towards. And that's kind of where I would come in and lead. But they definitely have taught me patience, kindness, understanding, and being there for somebody. Children are amazing. I don't think we give them enough credit, but they are truly teachers themselves, like you said, just as much as we're learning to teach them, like we're learning from them as well.
Is there something specific? Like, how old are your children now?
I have a 7-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Okay, that's a big, and it's a great gap because your 7-year-old can really learn from your 15-year-old. Your 15-year-old can be a great teacher, but taking your 15-year-old in the last month, what's one of the things that you've learned that's new that you didn't know about your 15-year-old?
I've learned that he is a very strong child, and he's independent. He doesn't care what people think, which is something that I really adore about him. He just does him, and he's okay with that.
You know what that does? I'm going to go there with you because I want to compliment you. This is really special. It's going to make me cry. It is special. We try to teach our children that. And when you tell me that your son has learned it and embraced it on his own, that's really big. And sometimes I don't want to say they don't let us learn that from them, but the fact that you have that knowledge is something that you have to be really proud of because you gave him the openness to go through and kind of like just be himself without worrying what other people think. And that's conceptually. So you can use that word with him conceptually. He has an understanding of conceptually knowing. So write that down, Melissa. That's the vocabulary. Conceptually knowing himself. Okay, that's really. I mean, I had hoped that this would be interactive with us, and I'm really excited about that because that really gives me a learning and a teaching for you. So he might understand what the word conceptual means, but you're giving him conceptually. He has actually embraced who he is and what he is, to know that he doesn't worry about what other people think. And that's an incredible concept. And I have to go there with you, that you don't really physically know that you taught him that, but just the way he lives in your household, he learned that. And so you have to, and your husband is in part of this. You're not doing this alone. So you have to do me a big favor tonight. And you have to say to your husband, thank you very much for having the foundation that we have. What's your son's name?
David.
So that David can understand himself conceptually. And that should be his vocabulary word today for you. So that's kind of cool. I love that. So the third thing is that to develop vocabulary from the children's interests. Everything has to come from inside of themselves. So I always tell parents when they're just with their child, they ask them. Usually they ask them what I said earlier, or normally was the fact that they have interests and they have passions, and what would they like to eat tonight, or what would they like to do on Saturday when Saturday's an open day. But one of the things is I ask the kids what their favorite things are and what their passions are. So it's getting to understand who they are through what they like. Now, at their age, they don't play with the toys anymore that they used to. Now, they might still. Now, is your youngest a daughter?
Yes.
Yeah. So she might still like her stuffed animals that she had as a child. But they change and they develop new things and new ideas and new passions. So I would say maybe once a year that every parent should say, what are your passions this year?
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe that you would like to do with your time this year? So everything goes into what it is that they like, and they may say, I love going on a vacation. Can we take another vacation? It's like, oh, okay. And you might have understood that they enjoyed vacations with you, but maybe you never asked them afterwards. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of a good thing. And that's also, I'm giving a shout out to the moms clubs. That's also for all moms as well as dads. They should have a dad's club. I like that. In fact, that should be something that social media needs to have. You're going to have that down as your little thing to maybe interview a dad and have a dad's club. We'll do that. The fourth thing is authenticity. And authenticity and sincerity are two different things that I explain in my vocabulary. I want to just stop and tell people that if they email me at Dr. Stone at Write Read Lead, and Write is spelled WRITE, like writing, writereadlead.org, I can send them my ebook for knowledge, reinforcing what I share today. But when you're sincere and when you're authentic with your child, they then can be recognized with their authenticity. And sometimes it's like they don't really understand that. But when I've written about there's a difference between authenticity and sincerity. And when you're sincere, it's kind of like almost a deeper thing than like, being authentic. And so the words can be, vocabulary can be synonyms. But in my ebook, I go to a deeper level so that children know how to go to a deeper level. And I before I give the fifth one, I want to share also with parents and teachers that my favorite book, I love dictionaries, but that's not my favorite book. Besides the Bible, that's not my favorite book. My favorite book is Roget's International Thesaurus, the thumbed index. And every household should have that book. I like the 7th edition. So you can get that, like, for whatever they, like, I think for $5 on Amazon. You can get used, but it has to be a thumbed index, not a dictionary type of thesaurus, because it has 367 synonyms in the whole book. And the book is the alphabetizing goes in the back, and then each of the words that you like, I like to use the word happy. So I go and I show happy, and happy has, I think there's about 15 synonyms for happy. And each of the words happy, like pleasure, has a number, and that number goes in the beginning. So you look up the word pleasure and you get maybe 35 synonyms. Or happy can be glad, and that'll have another number. I think that's 95.2. I've memorized those. And you go into the numbers and you look to see. And the word happy, I think it has like maybe 45 words that, So I love the thesaurus as a way to help children improve their vocabulary. Or this is what I do as a teacher. When they're given a writing assignment, they might say, well, I'm happy about this, or I'm happy about that. And I'll say, let's find another word. And I had a little second grader. Oh, I love my stories. She didn't know how to read, so I was teaching her to read. But so I knew she couldn't read the words in the thesaurus. So I read them to her. And her favorite word to be a synonym for happy was jazzed. She loved the sound of jazzed. I'm jazzed about this, and I'm jazzed about that. And so that became her new word in place of happy. So those kind of things help children with their vocabulary because they help increase their vocabulary. So I'm just doing a shout out for Roget's. And Roget's is spelled R-O-G-E-T. It's a French word. But they have to have it in the family. And it can be, I had a situation, I love my stories. I had a situation where my child, who I was teaching to read, and she was 14, had an older sister who was 17. And I taught the 14-year-old how to use the thesaurus. And then in those days, I gave the thesaurus away as gifts for my children. And I said to her in front of her mom, I said, I need to tell you, Brianna, I said, you have to do me a favor. I said, you have to teach your oldest sister to use the thesaurus. Mm-hmm. And she said, oh, I would like that. She wanted to be the one because her sister would teach her stuff. And she wanted to be the one that would teach her sister something. So I said, I really want you to do that. And then when it happened, I asked her, and she said she was really surprised. And I said, what were you surprised at? She said that my sister cared about the fact that she wanted to learn from me. That was big. That was really big. I loved that. But she learned how to use the thesaurus. And she loved teaching her sister. So it could be something that your 7-year-old teaches your 15-year-old. I would love that. You teach it to your 7-year-old first, and then you have And you see, the thesaurus, my thumbed index, is not like a regular dictionary. They do have thesauruses in dictionary form, but the thumbed index is not like a dictionary. So that's why I use it, because of all of the experiences that kids can have. And then my fifth one is enhancing vocabulary as a foundation for reading. So when your child has learned a new word, think about maybe your child at 5, but both of them at 5. So I have another question for you. The question has to do with reflecting and asking or remembering a big word that they knew before they even got to school, and how they used it. And I want to kind of like create that situation so that people know why it's the foundation for reading. Okay, so think about, well, you can think about either one of your kids when they were 5. Kind of a big word.
So that's a good question. So my daughter was in kindergarten, and she would go and talk about electric guitars and drums and acoustics. So that was pretty advanced for her age, but in her home, we exposed her to all of it. But her teachers are like, she talks about electric guitars and microphones.
Okay, so let me tell you, that's fabulous that you said that, because the word electric is not usually, especially electric guitar or microphone, or you mentioned another word having to do with the music or the
acoustics.
Acoustics. Oh my God, how fabulous is that? So you take the word acoustics and have her use it in, now remember, I'm reflecting, which is what I want to do. Use the word acoustics in different situations. And for the teacher, thank you for this memory. This is a fabulous memory for your audience or anybody that listens to your podcast. And I have to bless you and say, I am so glad to be back. You can call me back anytime. I love you as a podcaster. It's incredible to have met you. And I'm just grateful for the relationship and the fact that your knowledge is so incredible and vast. That's my word today, vast. That you can go back to your children and go back to the teachers and say, oh, have the child teach what acoustics are. Have the child teach what it means. Now follow this with me. What it means to use an electric guitar. And so I'm speaking to parents out there. You're incredible. Melissa, you're incredible.
Well, thank you.
You can have a whole podcast yourself about the learning that you learned from your children, that you gave that learning to the teachers. So I'm doing a shout out to teachers as well to say, listen to your children. Look at what they've learned from their parents. Melissa, you're an incredible parent. And the memories that you have from when the kids were younger, the foundation of their vocabulary, they themselves can today be teachers for their classroom. Because at 5 years old, they knew what acoustic meant. And they knew what an electric guitar was. And I have to tell you, was your husband a guitarist?
Yes.
Okay. So I have to go there with you. This is a little too late, but it's not necessarily because she's only 7. Okay. He can go into the classroom as a guest and a guest speaker teaching the children about his daughter's learning of an electric guitar or an acoustic guitar. You follow where I'm going with you. You know, the 15-year-old, maybe, she's too old for that. I mean, you have to do age appropriate. I always say that because sometimes I've been told by the kids, but it was more, I've been told by the parents, but it's more important to be told by the kids when they say to me, Dr. Stone, I'm a little old for that. Oh, okay. I didn't know. Okay. I don't have any children. I'm not, that's okay. But that's the authenticity. That's the sincerity of knowing that I was wrong to ask them, whatever it was that I asked them because of their age. It wasn't age appropriate. But your 7-year-old, wouldn't it be cool to have a day or maybe a week where each of the kids could bring their parent in as a guest speaker that was based on vocabulary that they knew as a child, that they knew before they went to school. That would be really cool. So that's something that you should bring up at your teacher's, maybe teacher conference or something, that there should be a day or a week that the parents could come in with their specialty, but they would come in as a special person to teach. And so the children can learn from the way that their child knew it before anybody else. Does that make sense? Yes. And again, it goes back to vocabulary and it goes back to understanding the vocabulary. You never had to explain to her or your son. Maybe it was your son also that learned it as a younger age, what acoustic was, because they knew because they were surrounded by it, or electric guitar because they were surrounded by it. So it's something that's within themselves. It's something that is not just learned individually, but it wasn't taught. It didn't have to be taught. It was learned within the concept of the way they lived. And so I honor you, sweetheart. I just think that that's great. And I challenge you. I'm going to do that. I'm going to challenge you to have a discussion, a conversation with your child's teacher and bring up the fact that how important vocabulary is, and that she should plan, or he should plan a day, a week of inviting parents with their specialty so children can learn about what the children in the family know ahead of time that may be something new for, it would be fabulous.
That's a fantastic idea. Yes, thank you.
It would be absolutely fabulous. I love that. But it didn't come. I love these because I am always prepared. Again, we do that. We're going to do a speech. We're always prepared. But I love what comes within that. And I think you have a foundation for that, of letting things just happen. And this was really an incredible experience. And I just want to thank you and just ask you if you had any other questions for me, ask you about our time.
Sure. I did want to ask you, where can everyone learn more about you?
My website is www.writereadlead.org. And again, that word write is WRITE, Write, Read, Lead. And I have wonderful videos of parents that have what they've done is given me testimonials. I have a testimonial from a child. I can also send you at the same time anyone that gives me, and I have to. Well, you have my physical magazine, but I can send people a digital copy of my Write, Read, Lead magazine. One of the articles in it. Oh, thank you. You have it with you. Thank you. Thank you. One of my articles in it is a very special one to me because it was Miles. And Miles is now reading a series of books, like the Hardy Boys, but it's now, Hardy Boys was in my day. It's now. And he's entering chess tournaments. And one of the neatest things, he had severe, I worked with him. He had severe AD. Oh, that's so cool. There's Miles. He had severe ADHD. He could not concentrate on anything. And today he is entering chess tournaments. And I'm so proud of him. So I can send the link, and you can have a digital, if you want to actually own my magazine, you can write me and I'm happy to send it to you. It will cost $20, but I'm happy to send it to you. But, and my book, Rethink Reading Strategies, is on Amazon. You have that. Thank you so much. And that's really special. I wrote that because I wanted both teachers and parents to know exactly what they need to do to increase their children's ability to read and be independent readers. And you can, like I said, you can get me at my website, and I'm happy to send you the physical copy of the magazine. And I'm happy to pay for postage and have you send me $20 for the magazine, but I love it. And I'm happy to reach out. I do travel. I travel. So people that are listening that are not in California where I am, I do take care of my expenses, but I teach dyslexic children and adults to read in 14 days or less. And it's proficient reading skills. That's all they need. No more tutoring. And I'm not putting down your tutoring. There are children that can, but one of the things that we need is we need proficient readers. And what you would do if a child had my program in Florida and then came to you, you would take that, and instead of helping them with their, like their homework or you would extend it. So you would be able to have them maybe starting a journal, or do something that is beyond actually teaching them to read, because they now have the reading skills that they've gotten from me, and now they want to go advance, and not just with additional reading, but maybe writing skills. So there are still aspects if people have my program, but they want their child to learn more things that, but I specialize in children and adults who have dyslexia and really need not just extra help, but proficient skills. So I just taught a 14-year-old in North Carolina, and her favorite word that I taught her through my thesaurus was predilection. Mm-hmm. And she learned to spell it. Predilection means love. Oh. So I'm just happy to share what I have after all the years of my life. And I thank you. Anything else that you want to ask me?
I just wanted to let the listeners know that they can find you also on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. They can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Feel free to send us any questions that you may have had from our conversation, and I'll be happy to answer them. And Dr. Suki Stone, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge with us. Appreciate you, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you so much. Blessings to everybody, and blessings to moms and teachers.
Bye-bye.